right. Man, the Woman King. Still talking about this picture, right? But we're going to expand it because as a sci-fi, fantasy, whatever you want to call it, writer, I see things a lot different than the average person. Because I'm a writer, I'm a creator, so almost, I call myself a liar, right? So liars can see things in other liars that people who don't lie professionally can't. And one of the things that I picked up on in the early part of the discussions and reactions to the Woman King, and this was even from the trailer, right? This is even from the trailer, was that it wasn't a slavery picture or a slave movie like we, hear people say, I don't want no more slave movies. Well, the Woman King wasn't and isn't a slave picture. It's more of, and it is, a sword and soul picture. Pause. Jeff Carroll here. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Express Lane. And I'm up earlier, 5 minutes earlier, and the sun hasn't given my studio, my car, light, so I had to put on the dome light. Hopefully I don't get pulled over by the police, but at least I'll be recording it, so I stand a chance of getting just a ticket instead of getting killed. No, I'm sorry. All right, so why do I say, well, when I first heard of Sword and Soul, it was by my friend Milton Davis, writer out of Atlanta, and he was pioneering the unity of black science fiction, one of the pioneers of it, right? Or just us coming together, right? And he wrote Sword and Soul, and of course it is science fiction, and of course it is black sci-fi, and he wrote stories in Africa of warriors, great warriors fighting each other. And I immediately said, I don't want to read no black on black violence. We got enough Crips and Bloods going at each other here in America. It can't be entertaining. That was my first reaction, and I even told him, I said, this is just black Conan stories. That's not, unless they're fighting some European invaders or some, even at the time I might have said Arab invaders, I don't want to see black people fighting each other, right? Well, it's true, my brother. You got to understand, and this is what other people would say to me. Not Milton, you don't talk like that. But other people would say, you're a Pan-Africanist, you're a Hotep. You got this romantic view of Africa. Everything ain't, perfect over there. And I said, I never said it was perfect. And I hate when people put things in my mouth or just misinterpret things that, you say. No, I said, I don't want to see black people fighting each other. I was tired of, I lived through it. I had fights from elementary school all the way up through damn near my 20s, my last fight. I don't have time for that, and it's stupid. We shouldn't be fighting. I'm a school teacher now. I'm a NAACP person. I'm, peace loving, right? If I'm gonna fight, I'm gonna fight for the revolution. I ain't got time to be fighting my brothers and sisters. Ungawa Black Power. I still feel that, right? So I came back at him, pow, hitting him, and it was true. You have a right to find what you want to be entertained by. It is not a documentary. This is not class. In class, in church, other places, you can feel, it's okay to feel uncomfortable because you're doing it for a greater purpose. You're doing it for academic or spiritual growth, right? So, yeah, the hard truth, yes, put it in there. And I have read on African conflicts. I knew that there was wars in Africa, and I know a lot more about them now, but at the time, that's how my reaction was. And then I remember when I watched the trailer for The Woman King, I had the same reaction. I was like, damn it, this is a black movie. It looks really big. oh man, I'm gonna have to go see this, and I know I'm not gonna enjoy it because I don't want to see black people fighting each other. That was it, right? So of course the movie transcended it, but even before that, I had started to learn to appreciate Sword and Soul. So I remember reading the first one. I started with the first black Sword and Soul story, Tomorrow by Charles Saunders. And I remember when I read that, I was like, damn, it's fun, it's enjoying, you know, they pitted the good and the bad, and I know there's good and bad, you know. I started thinking, I mean, in my stories, I don't really have, you know, too many, my villains are, you know, other cultures, you know, so it's not necessarily black on black violence. I mean, my first book, Gold Digger Killer, that's, you know, players and gold diggers, right? My second book is Thug Angel, and he goes after Central American vampires, right? And they're vampires, and he's a black person, so still not like a black on black war. Rashida's Zombie Killer, everybody's a zombie. There's no racial discrimination, and it's not black zombies, right? Boss Lady's Planet is robots and, you know, soldiers, but it could be considered black on black because everybody in the world is black, but it doesn't feel like it, right? What else did I? Because I don't want to be a hypocrite, right? So I have Harlem Shake, and even in the 3 books of that, we have a villain in the 3rd book. She's black, and you know, she creates some type of plant zombies. So it still doesn't feel like black on black. The 2nd book, you know, there's a jail that they go into, and there's people in the jail, and they're multicultural, so they're not black, even though the Harlem survivors themselves are black. And that's kind of the run the gamut. I mean, in Sci-Fi Streets, I have a whole bunch of different ethnicities. So I think the biggest thing for me with my stories is, you know, I didn't have any of that. Now, when I read Minjai by Milton, and that was another Sword and Soul. That was, I believe, in West Africa, but it might be East Africa, right? And in both of those conflicts, the Africans were being invaded by Arabs, specifically on the East Coast. And then on the West Coast, they were too, Arabs and Berbers. And we didn't really, what you call it, see and think of it that way. So in Charles Saunders' book, Tomorrow, I don't remember exactly, but I believe it takes place in Central Africa or Eastern Africa. And Minji takes place in East Africa or West Africa. I'm not sure, but both of them, they even have an Arab person dressed in northern Saharan clothes, and then there's another one dressed in West African clothes from the South, so that sub-Saharan. And I guess that makes a difference for me. But then when I saw The Woman King, a lot of it came even more together because, like I tell people, I was aware of the Dahomey tribe, right? I was aware of the trading that Africans did with the Europeans during slavery, right? And it wasn't a mystery to me. I had already read 2,000 Seasons. I read Things Fall Apart in high school, and I was aware. However, when you see something like a story that puts it all together, it is different, right? I always told people, yeah, we have prisoners of war, but then when you see them in the movie, you're like, damn, those aren't slaves. They straight killing them. They, we'll spoil it because what we Wednesday out now. Viola Davis herself, her character was a former prisoner of war. She gave a great speech in the movie. Said, yo, either you want to get down with the warriors. I forgot the name of the doggone warriors, right? Or you're gonna go out there and just make your own house and live on your own. and none of those alternatives included being fully enslaved or being killed, right? So they gave them a chance to join their tribe, just like Okonkwo and things fall apart. And so when I was reading these books, I realized that there's a base culture, right? And then many times, I'm going to say it's Milton's book, there are brothers and sisters fighting each other. And that conflict is part of life and part of nature. And so who am I to hold that against the whole genre? So my first full series is coming to a conclusion now, almost conclusion, right? Book 3 is being illustrated and it's going to book 4, which I'm in the process of writing now. Planet of Kibulan. That was my first venture into writing Sword and Soul. And like I said, Sword and Soul is stories of great, noble African armies, and maybe the Dahomey don't even fall into that, but during that time, right? We didn't really have a medieval time, so Africa's sort of been like the same since the time of the Egyptians all the way up until the modern era. Then we started getting cars and stuff like that. But you can go to Africa now and find areas that are like they were thousands of years ago with a cell phone, and so you had this clash. But coming through different eras, we didn't really have that the way Europe had it, okay? So we didn't really have that medieval period. So also, my Planet Kibulan is not even black on black violence. It's the closest I got to it, right? I have a planet where there are all black people, right? And all different life forms. So it's human and other life forms. And it goes into chaos. So my heroes, Shabaka and Kuhela, are fighting different life forms. Now, there is another entity called Yakub, and he's like my Thanos character, and he's black. And so when you meet him and understand who he is, it's no different than any other black story where you have a villain, an antagonist. You have to have that. And, white people can't be our preoccupation in every story. Even Arab people, I don't care how true these things are, we have black people that become our antagonists. Whether they're like Thanos and there's sort of a point to them that we can understand, or they're full out Jeffrey Dahmers. It is what it is. I remember when I did my movie, The Death Pledge. I loved Baba so much, it broke my heart when he killed people in the movie. And I had to quickly adjust that, because when I watched the movie, I was like, damn, it's a bunch of black kids that's getting killed. Now, mind you, he's a senseless killer, right? Or he's a jaded person who overreacts, if you want to try to defend him. But at the end of the day, yeah, he's killing people. And it is what it is. And I had to do that. It was hard for me to do that. I have had horror stories prior, right? It happened on Negro Mountain. The mountain is the protective spirit, so the bad people come there. Man, I've dodged this, create a bad black person so much in all of my stories. In Sci-Fi Streets, you could read a whole bunch of stories that I have. I could run them down. I've skirted the issue. But at the end of the day, there are black people that do bad things and that have to be dealt with. And I'm not defending the Dahomey. They were horrible, but at the end of the day, it was a horrible time. It was the Crips and Bloods going haywire. No jails, no police, no greater society. These tribes went to war with each other. They still didn't go Game of Thrones. There wasn't no extra torturing or walks of shame, no beheading people for spectacles and stuff like that. Those are extra. Even in our worst times, we're not that bad. But, you know, the homie cutting off 4,000 heads. Yo, that's crazy. That's wild. That's not even defendable. But anyway, Sword and Soul is redeemable and entertaining because there's stories of life and the stresses of life that we all go through. So that's where I get it. Now, is it as entertaining as other stories for me? Probably not, but I'll tell you, the warrior king is the woman king, sorry. The woman king is changing that, and I hope it changes for you. I'll probably come up with a Sword and Soul reading list, but yeah, my book Planner Kibalon, its third book should be hitting Kickstarter. Maybe, I have no idea. Maybe the winter, maybe for February, I don't know. But check for it. Book 1 and 2 are out, so you can get that from me. And Demaro, Minji, and Milton has a whole bunch. He has Changa. He got a whole sword. He's a Sword and Soul dude. So MV Media, that's my man. All right, y'all. I'm out. Peace.